Starting off, we have Madonna. Now in 2015, Madonna was in Manchester for her Rebel Heart tour, but fans were left unimpressed as they kept waiting for the star. Doors opened at 6:30 p.m. with Madonna expected to start her show at 9 p.m, but fans were soon tweeting about their long wait after they were reportedly told that the concert wouldn't end until 11:30 p.m. Now Madonna was defending her lateness though when she did eventually make it to the stage, launching an angry rant after being booed. "I don't like to be late, by the way, alright? And all you blanks who keep complaining about it can shut the F up," she shouted. "I'm not back there eating chocolate, filing my nails, and getting my extensions done, alright?" She added before explaining that the delay was due to a malfunction with the video for the gig. "We had no video and we had to wait until we could reboot. No selfish diva reason. If you diva blanks want to keep complaining about it, don't come to my show," she said. Now some concert goers reportedly walked out of the show before Madonna even took the stage, with many angry about the late finish and worrying about being able to get home from the venue. Now besides this, Madonna has been known to push people out of her way when passing by, and she asked Peter Andre, a supporting act during her Australian tour, "Am I supposed to know you?" And Cher has gone on record to confirm Madonna was extremely rude when she was invited to Cher's home with her then husband Sean Penn. Next is Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase has garnered a reputation for being difficult to work with, as there are countless accounts about him being disrespectful to coworkers, so it shouldn't be that shocking to hear that he's been rude to fans. Actor and comedian Rob Huebel was a longtime fan of Chevy and recounted an experience he had when meeting him for the first time. Chevy was sent to perform with Rob's theater improv group on one occasion, and Rob approached the actor for an introduction and told him about how he was such a big fan. Now any normal person would be appreciative and thank the fan, but oh no, how did Chevy respond? Well, he slapped Rob. Yep, he tried to make a joke out of it and said, "Can't you see I'm talking to somebody, kid?" But regardless, if he was interrupted and was talking to someone, slapping someone, especially someone who adores you, is just not the move. Now let's talk about Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow has her own company called Goop, which is a wellness and lifestyle brand. In 2019, Goop had a UK wellness summit where fans paid $6,000 to meet her. Now that's just an insane amount to begin with, but with paying that much, you'd assume that you'd have a really good experience, right? Well, not for these fans. Those who attended said that Gwyneth hardly made appearances, and when she did, she was surrounded by security. One attendee said Gwyneth acts like she's a health goddess, but actually she's a pretentious, greedy extortionist. She had a ton of security, she was unapproachable, she did the minimum, a few fireside chats with Twiggy and Penelope Cruz, then she put on her Birkenstocks and snuck out. "I was a huge fan of Gwyneth, now I feel like I've lost my faith in God." Those at the event that weekend were urged to book rooms through Goop at $1,300 for 2 nights at the Kimpton Fitzroy London Hotel, but some of them later discovered that rates that weekend started at $250 a night. Now safe to say that a lot of fans felt scammed and betrayed, and I can't blame them. On to Adam Levine. As recently as February 2020, Adam Levine expressed remorse over unprofessional behavior during a concert in Chile. Fans could have called him a jerk for not giving his performance the attention it deserved when he and the rest of Maroon 5 took the stage 15 minutes late for their slotted show, but they didn't, they were happy. But then Adam called out fans for singing along to the band's songs. Yeah, he didn't want them to sing at a concert. But that's not the only criticism fans have of Adam. On Quora, one user posed the question, "Who are the biggest jerks in music?" And the answer surprised many of Maroon 5 and Adam Levine's fans. One critic noted that early on in Maroon 5's initial days of fame, Adam made rude comments about a fan and even his current girlfriend. Adam was giving out autographs and he allegedly told a fan that he didn't give autographs to ugly chicks. Though what he said and how exactly he said it can't necessarily be confirmed, many commenters agreed that it sounded a lot like the Maroon 5 frontman's personality. Now I've also heard firsthand that at a meet and greet he called a woman fat. Now that is just plain rude and makes me so angry angry that he thinks he can treat not only his fans but women this way. Now we have Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber grew up in the spotlight, and although he has a lot of fans, he also has a lot of enemies. He's known for canceling meet and greets and acting erratically in public. When a few fans straight up asked him for a hug, he refused. Now he reportedly spat on fans who were beneath his hotel room, although his representative claimed that he didn't spit on anyone and that there were no fans below the balcony. Then one time when a fan tried to snap a selfie with Justin, he told her that her lack of respect made him sick. Now he also yelled at fans for talking during a 2016 concert. And more recently, on December 5th, 2022, Justin and his wife Haley were seen walking to their vehicle in New York. While walking to their van, there was paparazzi and a fan there. The fan was holding a paper and pen wanting Justin's autograph and said, "Will you make me the best grandmother ever?" Now in a rude tone, Justin replied, "That's not going to happen today," and proceeded to get in the car. Safe to say, Justin isn't grateful for all the love he's received over the years from fans. Then there's Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen DeGeneres has been exposed for not being as happy and bubbly off-screen as she is on-screen. In 2021, she announced that her talk show was coming to an end after almost 2 decades on the air. News of her departure came after staff members reported a toxic work environment. Employees said they were fired after taking medical leave or bereavement days to attend family funerals. Others said they were also instructed by their direct managers not to speak to Ellen if they saw her around the office. It's also said that Ellen only appears to be bubbly and down to earth on camera, but backstage she is demanding and rude to her staff. Now, a few have even quit because of her behavior, because apparently she explodes at staffers over the tiniest things. Now, more recently, clips have been circulating from her show where she mistreated her guests, the most notably being in 2008 when Mariah Carey was on her show, and Ellen pressured her into confirming her rumored pregnancy by encouraging the singer to drink champagne. Mariah tried to politely decline the drink offer and then pretended to take a sip, leading Ellen to exclaim, "You're pregnant." Now, Mariah spoke out about how uncomfortable this made her feel as she wasn't ready to announce her pregnancy. Now sadly, Mariah had a miscarriage, which made looking back on that memory on the show even more painful. So yeah, people don't like Ellen. Moving on to James Corden. In 2022, James Corden received a temporary ban from a New York restaurant because of the way he treated staff. The owner, Keith McNally, took to Instagram to publicly announce the ban to his 88,000 followers, saying that James Corden was the most abusive customer to my Balthazar servers since the restaurant opened 25 years ago, and going on to share 2 managers' reports from when Corden had visited. Now, the most recent was from October 2022, and it explained how Corden had reacted to the restaurant making a mistake with his wife's order, saying James Corden began yelling like crazy to the server, "You can't do your job, you can't do your job, maybe I should go into the kitchen and cook the omelet myself." Honestly, James, maybe you should have, and then you'd understand what it's like to work in a fast-paced, high-end restaurant. Next up is Chrissy Teigen. Chrissy Teigen was arguably most famous to those in the Twitter sphere for her honest, witty observations and jokes, often leveled at the widely criticized political figures. Now, she's gained a multi-million following over the last few years. One of the people who Chrissy had leveled her tweets at years before revealed the dark side to the star's online habits. Courtney Stodden said they first met the model when they were 16 years old, after marrying coach Doug Hutchinson, who was 34 years their senior. Courtney was considered the butt of the joke among others, and Teigen directed her barbs straight at the reality star. In May 2021, Teigen made a statement about the controversy. "Not a lot of people are lucky enough to be held accountable for their past BS in front of the entire world. I'm mortified and sad at who I used to be. I was an insecure, attention-seeking troll. I'm ashamed and completely embarrassed at my behavior, but that's nothing compared to how I made Courtney feel," she wrote on Twitter. But hey, at least she was able to admit to it, but what she did was terrible. Then there's Jon Hamm. Kathy Griffin has been quite outspoken about her encounters with rude celebrities and isn't shy about calling them out. In her book, Kathy Griffin's Celebrity Run-Ins, My A to Z Index, she explained that Jon Hamm is one of the rudest people she's ever met. "You'll never convince me to like Jon Hamm," she wrote. "The vibe I've always gotten from him is cold and somewhat disrespectful towards me. I'm suggesting he's one of those hot guys who's mildly funny, but actually thinks he's comedian level funny." Now, she recounted a time where he showed up at a dinner party and said, "Hammy showed up, he even said to me, 'What are you doing here?' I said, 'What are you doing here?' And later on, when she was talking to fellow actor Jack Nicholson, an intoxicated John reportedly started whispering in her ear. First it was, "You know your Emmy isn't a real Emmy," and then he whispered, "You're so old." Now that's just strange behavior all around. And finally we have Christian Bale. Christian Bale has a bad temper. An audio recording leaked in 2009 of Christian having an outburst towards cinematographer Shane Hurlburt on the set of Terminator Salvation. Now in the audio, he is heard yelling at Shane, who supposedly distracted the actor during a scene as it appears that he walked in on the shot. Christian became enraged, hitting Shane with F-bombs as well as threatening to smash his lighting equipment. During a part of the clip he says, "You are trashing my scene, you do it one effing time, and I ain't walking on this set if you're still hired."
Kicking off the list at number 10 is Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle is more than a little divisive, and she has been for a hot minute, ever since her and Prince Harry became a thing. People love to dish out how she's apparently incredibly mean to those who work under her. Interestingly though, it's usually those who don't like her that seem to bring these issues forward, but nonetheless, there have been multiple reports of Meghan treating royal staffers less than appropriately. According to one story, the former actor was tasting food for her wedding and she had reportedly requested a quote, macrobiotic alliterative option. Now, I don't even know what those words mean, but apparently it means no eggs, because she got very upset when she thought there was egg in the dish, and well, there wasn't. According to Vanity Fair's royal reporter Katie Nicholl, quote, "She said, no, I can taste it. I can taste there's an egg in this dish. And I think there was a bit of an upset when suddenly the Queen walked in and she just quietly took Meghan to the side and said, Meghan, in this family we don't speak to people like that." There were also a series of leaked emails written by Jason Nauf, a former palace communications secretary, that were sent to Prince William's private secretary with the names of two bullied staffers subbed for X and Y. In the email, Nauf wrote, "The Duchess seems intent on always having someone in her sights. She is bullying Y and seeking to undermine her confidence. We have had report after report from people who have witnessed unacceptable behavior towards Y." Number 9. Anna Wintour. You ever seen The Devil Wears Prada? If you haven't, well, be better and go watch it. The main villain of the film and the book it's based on is the assistant protagonist boss, Miranda Priestley, the powerful New York City-based editor-in-chief of the fictional fashion magazine Runway, who of course is fictional. But the author of the book, Lauren Weisberger, worked as a junior assistant for Anna Wintour, a New York City-based editor-in-chief of Vogue magazine since 1988, and that is not fictional. What does that tell us? Lauren has since said that the list of demands made by the editor in the novel is made up of both fact and fiction, with the factual parts being inspired by what she endured early in her career under Wintour. There is a whole book semi-based on the way that this woman would treat her assistants and how it completely changes a person for the worst. So that's all you need to know, really. Number 8. Katie Couric. Back in 2021, journalist and presenter Katie Couric published a memoir called Going There, which was supposed to be all fun and gossipy, but it was decidedly not that. She described in the book how she froze out female colleagues at NBC to protect her quote, turf at the top, and how she loved getting under rival female colleagues' skin. According to a TV industry insider, Couric contributed to the infamous toxicity at NBC and was part of a culture that wasn't supportive of women. In her book, she talks down on women from Martha Stewart to Diane Sawyer and Deborah Norville, and it's all for the ambition they show, which is pretty similar to Katie's own ambition. Those who have worked for Couric say that her memoir is par for the course with the celeb. According to an anonymous senior news producer, quote, "She gives fresh meaning to that old saying, there's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women." Another female co-worker whose feelings she hurt is Ashley Banfield, who staffers said was humiliated by Couric at the 2000 Olympics and treated like a child. Couric even admits in her book that she gave Banfield the cold shoulder because helping her would have been quote self-sabotage. There's also the fact that she kind of excused the actions of Matt Lauer, but that's a whole separate thing all of its own. Number 7. Naomi Campbell. The legendary model Naomi Campbell changed the fashion industry and is still one of the most important supermodels ever. If you think that means she must be nice, then let me introduce you to the way the world works. Naomi has been so bad that it's led to actual legal action. Multiple times. As some examples, in 2000, Campbell was sued by her assistant Georgina Galanis as apparently the model blunt forced Galanis with a telephone in a hotel room and then threatened to push her out of a moving car. In 2004, Campbell supposedly introduced her personal assistant, Amy Castellado, to her forehead with force and then bit her lip and yanked her to the floor while screaming, "You effing worthless bee." I can't actually say the words, but I think you can infer what I'm trying to say here. And then in 2006, Campbell allegedly pulled another blunt force on her housekeeper, Anna Scolavino, with a mobile phone. That same year, Campbell is said to have open palmed her personal assistant, Amanda Brack, and struck her on the head, again with a mobile phone. So, what I'm saying is that 1, she is literally physical with people, and 2, her choice of tool for these interactions seems to always be some form of communication device. So, if you ever see Naomi Campbell with a phone or like a walkie-talkie or something, just be on guard, okay? Because she's vicious with that. She's vicious with it, that's all I'm saying. All jokes aside though, between 1998 and 2010, 8 employees have accused the supermodel of getting physical with them, and I don't think we should just let that off lightly. Number 6, Victoria Beckham. If you thought that the Spice Girl, who went by Posh Spice, wasn't going to be at least a little problematic with her staff, well, I don't know, I guess you were wrong, huh? Look at that. A former nanny of fashion designer and former Spice Girl Victoria Beckham has revealed that Victoria expects all the nannies of her household to answer to the name Joe, even if their name is not Joe. So, if you're working with Naomi Campbell, you get dinged up by the wonders of modern communication, but if you're working for Victoria Beckham and her kids, your individual identity is at stake. So pick your poison, I guess. Remind me to never work for a celebrity, ever. Apparently, this is because the very first nanny of Beckham's daughter Harper was named Joe, and I suppose this rule is to not confuse the kid? But you're telling me that your kid can't understand the basic principles of jobs and employee turnover? I don't know, seems a little suspicious. Number 5, Madonna. She may be one of the most influential artists in pop music, but Madonna has a rep. I think someone somewhere probably knew she would be on a list like this, and maybe it was you. Ooh. Madonna has a huge team of people under her, and while in one instance you would have her backup dancers willing to get arrested for dancing provocatively in her shows in Toronto, you'd have way more instances of them just not being paid or not being paid in full, which has led her employees to sue her multiple times. She has fired or lost staff for taking time off, being upset about the crazy long hours they're expected to work, the fact that they don't get enough breaks, and for being required to be on call 24/7. On top of that, she's been sued multiple times for acting inappropriately with her staff, and a couple of years ago, an anonymous source revealed that when one of Madonna's dancers broke her arm during practice, instead of being concerned, Madonna threw a fit. Number 4, Lady Gaga. I know the Lady Gaga fans are many, and I know they are powerful, but alas, if your idol is kind of the worst sometimes, I am honor bound to talk about it. Sorry. Gaga's former assistant Jennifer O'Neill says that Lady Gaga has a, quote, big head, and that her demands became bigger and bigger once she started to get bigger. That same assistant was the one who eventually sued the artist for $400,000 in unpaid overtime, which was settled out of court. Not only did she not get paid what she fairly earned, but the assistant had discussed some of the expectations of the job once Gaga had gotten big. She had to handle around 20 bags of luggage at the same time, handle all the singer's communications, and she was on call at every moment of the day. According to O'Neill, she was by her side virtually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That includes sleeping in the same bed with her because she did not sleep alone. And Jennifer wasn't even given breaks for food or sleep, so imagine how that worked out. Not very well. Number 3, James Corden. From what I know, Late Show host James Corden being exposed as kinda just the worst is a more recent revelation. There have been a few different stories that I've heard of, including a little back and forth with Sir Patrick Stewart at an awards show a few years back, which you can watch on YouTube, and I suggest you do because it's kind of really awkward and really funny, but the story I hear the most involves James being a menace to the service industry. According to Balthazar owner Keith McNally, who took to Instagram on October 17, 2022 to publicly ban James Corden from the New York City restaurant, James Corden is, quote, a talented comic but a tiny cretin of a man. Which is just hilarious. In his Instagram post, he detailed multiple incidents in which James was rude, dismissive, or nasty to the restaurant staff, calling the late night host the worst he'd had in 25 years of hospitality service. That's coming from a guy who runs a New York restaurant, so you know he's seen some things. But even though McNally forgave Corden and lifted his ban, it got people talking. Like former Spice Girl Mel B, who dubbed James Corden the biggest D-head in Hollywood while on Britain's The Big Narsty Show on December 2nd, 2022. According to her, James feels people are beneath him. She said, quote, whether it be production, camera guys, sound lighting, we all work for the same thing, so you should always be nice. And he hasn't been very nice. Number 2, Vin Diesel. If you think having a co-producer credit on the absolutely massive Fast and Furious franchise would go to someone's head, well, you'd be correct. Look at you go. Armed with his producer credit, Vin Diesel has been able to get away with a lot of tardiness on his Fast and the Furious sets. With the power to make decisions about pretty much everything, Vin has apparently peed off quite a few cast and crew members on his films. Apparently, he ain't a fan of 7 a.m. Monday morning call times for set, which is kind of understandable. So, the whole production was forced to make it 10 a.m. just for him. These are 12-hour days, usually more actually, just so we understand what's going on here. But even with that adjusted time schedule, Vin was often 30 minutes to an hour late to shoot scenes. And it wasn't because he was late to set, it's because he was chillin' in his 1,100 square foot, 2-story, custom-built gold trailer with $70,000 worth of technology, round-the-clock video surveillance, and granite countertops in the kitchen. I'm actually not joking, and that trailer does indeed follow him around the world to sets. It's actually kinda cool, not gonna lie, but not cool enough to hold up entire productions. Vin also makes very big decisions about what will and won't happen on the films, and he would tick off a lot of people doing that. One of them famously being The Rock, who made a post about it online. Now, The Rock regrets that action, but as he said in a later interview, quote, yet interestingly enough, it was as if every single crew member found their way to me and either quietly thanked me or sent me a note. But yeah, it wasn't my best day sharing that. And finally, in at number 1, Alec Baldwin. No, I'm not going to be talking about the fact that Alec Baldwin accidentally took someone's life on set, but I will be talking about how the actor has been accused of belittling customer service workers. In May 2023, a server accused Alec of calling her a peasant. The anonymous waitress told Page 6, I was going to feed the head of the table, but that's who Alec was talking to. So I go up to him and I say, I'm sorry sir, but we're going to have servers walking through the tables here in a minute. Which is when Alec asked her, so when is it a good time to talk to my friends, huh? Adding to that, he was very agitated and asked her, quote, do I have to explain it to you? After replying that she didn't need Alec to explain a damn thing, Alec allegedly said, well then, step aside. Apparently, afterwards, her co-workers informed her that Alec had called her a peasant as she continued on doing her job. Now, there are also multiple clips online of Alec getting pretty aggressive with paparazzi, which is okay, and there was a time he got pretty fed up when cycling through New York. Baldwin has been known for his anger issues for quite some time now, so yeah.
Number 10, the Community cast. Kicking off our list is a group effort. Chevy Chase was a popular man thanks to National Lampoon and Saturday Night Live, but he returned to the mainstream when he starred as Pierce Hawthorne on the hit sitcom Community. Now, I personally loved this show. Chevy Chase, not so much. And it would appear that his Community co-stars would agree with that statement. Around the middle of the show's runtime, Chevy started to complain about his co-stars, especially Donald Glover. It became apparent that he was more than just angry with Donald and was eventually fired for using racial slurs against him. According to Donald himself, aka Troy Barnes, Chevy would often make inappropriate jokes, either aimed at him or as a general way to disrupt a scene. Joel McHale told People that before he was fired, Chevy was complaining about his character on the show and how he was being portrayed. The entire cast reminded Chevy that there was no contract keeping him there, which may have been part of what set him off on set. His character was written out in truly humiliating fashion, with his life ending after feeding his geese too much, if you know what I mean. He was playing with his ding dong. Number 9. Tyrese Gibson. It's no longer a surprise to anyone on the planet that James Franco is a bad dude. His negative vibe can actually be traced back to 2005. James and Tyrese Gibson starred opposite each other in a 2005 dramatic piece called Annapolis. The story followed Franco's character wanting to attend the titular Naval Academy and entering into a boxing tournament against some of the Navy's best and brightest. His main opponent was, of course, Tyrese Gibson. Throughout the majority of the film, James and Tyrese would regularly practice their choreography for their final fight of the film. Now, method acting is one thing when you just pretend to be someone else all the time, but it's different when you're literally punching your co-star for real. Instead of the normal film choreography allowing actors to fake hit each other, Franco was throwing real punches left and right without warning. Gibson tried to be civil at first and just asked him to lighten up, but Franco ignored him and continued to box his little heart out. When asked about the incident in interviews, Franco defends himself by saying that he was aware that he made the set difficult at times and just claimed to be so wrapped up in his role that he probably wasn't as friendly as he could be. Gibson, however, holds a massive grudge towards Franco, claiming that he'd never step foot in the same room as him ever again. Good news for Tyrese, James got cancelled and Fast 11 is surely on its way. Maybe they'll go to Atlantis this time. Okay, why does that sound cool though? Number 8, Viola Davis. Now the stories about Jared Leto and his acting methods are infamous. On almost every single set that he's been on, this dude has just caused some kind of issue. Someone made a very smart decision to keep Jared away from his castmates on the set of Haunted Mansion. That decision really should have been made though on the set of the long-forgotten 2016 Suicide Squad from DC Comics, when Jared played the Joker and took it just way too far. Now, I have mentioned the fact that he's left live animals in people's trailers and used adult skin tubes on their pillows and many times in many other videos. For Amanda Waller, aka Viola Davis, she actually received an unwanted surprise that almost forced her to quit the gig. One day she returned to her trailer where she found a case filled with ammunition. Thousands of little metal life enders were just left there as a gift from Jared. Viola did not think this was a present. In fact, she thought that this was a threat. After speaking to her fellow castmates, she realized that it was just Jared leaving her a fun little gift, you know, just enjoy it. This was frightening to say the least, but for Viola, it set her off. When speaking about her time on the film, she has maintained that Jared was intense, and she's glad that she never had to be face to face with him on screen. Or maybe she was. Honestly, I try not to think about that movie very much. Number 7, Amy Hill. Yeah, baby, this one's shagadelic. Despite being a Canadian treasure and the man behind some comedy cult classics like Austin Powers and Wayne's World, Mike Myers is apparently a menace on set. According to his Cat in the Hat co-star Amy Hill, Mike had handlers dress his entire trailer and work area in tenting. Apparently, he didn't want anyone to physically see him. Honestly, that's fair. If I was in a cat suit with an actual plastic bum crack in it, I would want to hide too. His reputation as a difficult Donnie may have something to do with Hollywood basically blacklisting him from appearing as a lead in anything thanks to The Love Guru, which, again, I try not to think about that movie. Of course, he recently starred in his own show called The Pentaveret, which aired on Netflix, a show where he was forced to play half of the cast because he couldn't get more people to work with him. Or maybe it's because of The Love Guru. Honestly, it's a bad movie, who knows? Number 6, Leto. Leto debuted a new song at Coachella earlier this year, a catchy tune that a lot of fans are calling a direct diss towards Nicki Minaj. The big energy rapper provided fans with a fun dance track packed to the brim with shade. Rapping the lyrics, snitches acting like they're running it, they really ran through. She thought I would kiss her ash, but she mustn't have took her meds. Can you tell I'm not a rapper? Leto ended the song with several clues as to who the song was about, including some ad-libs like, say she got a problem, imaginary smoke, you said it's up, then put on the floor. I honestly would love to quote everything that she sang or said about Nicki, but it just does not sound right coming out of me. I mean, just listen to how I say the word snitch, like the true Harry Potter geek that I am. In the past, the two had a very public battle on Twitter with swear words and shade being thrown left and right. After Coachella in 2022, these two fell out even harder. An all-out verbal war had begun with the two now entangled in a lifelong feud that may never fade. Now, I'm not sure who the rude one is in this case. I will let you be the judge because you're probably a fan and I'm not. Number 5, George Takei. This one is for all of you Star Trek fans out there. Please just live long and prosper and enjoy this video. Now, the world will surely be well aware of this long-standing feud between William Shatner and his Star Trek co-star, George Takei. This feud has lasted over 50 years, and according to George, boils down to William being a prima donna attention hog the entire time he was on set. Over the years, George has always been very vocal about his opinion on his fellow Star Trek cast and crew. Most of the time, he has nothing but nice things to say and claims to have made lifelong friends from the project. But there is one that he despises: William Shatner. William Shatner was the bane of everyone's existence on set. He loved being the center of attention, and he was very self-involved. He wanted everyone to know who he was. William actually responded to these claims, telling people that he believed his Star Trek co-star was damaging his good name for publicity's sake. Why would a man who's barely acted in 30 years suddenly want to bash you for fame and glory? That doesn't make sense. I don't know if anyone's noticed or not, but William Shatner hasn't done much either in a while, other than petition to go to space for real. Number 4, Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne and Vin Diesel first met on the set of Fast 5, the 5th Fast and Furious movie. They're really great with names. This was Vin Diesel's 5th movie, while it was Dwayne Johnson's first, not just in the franchise, but in acting in general. Now, at first, everything seemed to be okay with these guys. Fast 5 made a ton of money, and they asked Dwayne to come back for a 6th and 7th installment. However, something changed in 2016 when in a now deleted post called one of his fellow Fast 7 co-stars a candied bum, only he didn't say bum, man, I wish I could swear. He actually said a word that rhymes with grass. Rumors began to fly that he was more than likely referencing Vin Diesel. Rumors proven true only a week later. Following the premiere of Fate of the Furious, Johnson posted to Instagram thanking all of his fellow cast members by name, but he left Vin Diesel out of it. It was later confirmed by Michelle Rodriguez, their co-star, that there was a massive amount of tension on set. They were bros at first, but as time went on, the franchise evolved, and so did their egos. They fought constantly over who should get more screen time, more money, who was the real lead, toxic stuff like that. To keep both of the actors happy, Johnson was given a spin-off movie where he co-starred with Jason Statham, and Vin Diesel was left right where he belongs with his family. Number 3, Meryl Streep. Dustin Hoffman is a very easy man to spot. Not only is he a solid actor, but he has a very specific face. Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium, anyone? Remember that movie? I didn't until I started writing this script, and I'm gonna go watch it tonight. Despite his ability to play lovable and cheerful characters, he actually started out as somewhat of a villain. On the second day of filming his more famous part in Kramer vs. Kramer, Dustin decided to improvise a scene where he strikes Meryl Streep across the face. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Dustin Hoffman thought it'd be a good idea to slap Meryl Streep. Mamma mia, that's not okay. Get it? Because she was in Mama? I'm just gonna move on. Not only was Meryl shocked by the move, but she recalled that Dustin was also trying to use a tactic on her called emotional recall, taunting her about her late partner, John Cazale, and his illness. So just extra level of evil from Dusty. Number 2, Freddie Prinze Jr. Kiefer Sutherland is known for his roles in movies like Lost Boys and Stand By Me, and has built a nice little nest egg for himself. For a long time, he was starring in the crime drama 24. Many celebrities have made small cameos and reoccurring roles on the show, but in 2010, Scooby-Doo alumni Freddie Prinze Jr. was casted as Agent Cole Ortiz. Despite the massive success of the show, the job left him scarred, admitting that he hated every moment of it. According to Freddie, Kiefer Sutherland is the most unprofessional person in the entire world. He continued to say that he wasn't talking trash. This was something that he would say happily to Kiefer's face. Apparently, a ton of his co-stars agree that he makes filming a living nightmare. Following the end of his character's time on the show, he did slow down in the acting world, now limiting himself to voiceover and cameo roles. The odd thing was that while there was some people backing up Freddie's story, there were actually a higher number of defenders for Sutherland, claiming the exact opposite was happening. Some say he's the most professional man in the world, so if anyone watching this knows Kiefer, weigh in, write hashtag Kiefer good or hashtag Kiefer bad, and see what happens. Number 1, Rachel McAdams. The Notebook is considered to be a great romantic movie, one of the greatest of all time, in fact. Oddly enough, the on-screen couple did not get along at all while filming. Rachel McAdams and her co-star Ryan Gosselin would constantly fight on set and seem to have completely opposite ideas on how most of the scenes should play out. One day in particular was pretty exciting for anyone not involved, all the drama watchers on set enjoying their free tea. Ryan called over the director and demanded that Rachel be replaced by another actress to read her lines. In front of 150 crew members, Ryan Gosling was claiming that Rachel wasn't giving him anything, and the two would constantly yell at each other. Their toxic toxic on-set feud somehow morphed into a real-life relationship that lasted for like 2 years. Anyone who's worked on the set of this film blames them for constant schedule setbacks and creating an overall difficult work environment. So honestly, we don't know who the meanest one was there, Rachel or Ryan. You be the judge. Number 10, Taylor Swift. Taylor's tyranny of torment must end now. Taylor Swift has made a name for herself as a person who thrives on the ending of a relationship. Since the late 2000s, Taylor has been making millions in the music industry. Her songs like Love Story and 22 are anthems to many. The catchy tunes tend to come from a place of so-called heartache, however. Taylor has thanked her exes on several occasions for inspiring the songs that made her who she is today. People like Tom Hiddleston, Harry Styles, Jake Gyllenhaal, all have had a part to play in the inception of some bops. The argument can and should be made that Taylor needs to just chill already. She's made several songs that were good without the need to berate an ex, and some of those songs that are about exes are revealing. Like, imagine if after every breakup you've ever had, a song just pops up on your phone by U2 called Why They Left You. Number 9, Chris Pratt. Maybe you know him. Star-Lord. Chris Pratt has had a massive, successful career since first starring as the lovable Andy Dwyer on the hit mockumentary series Parks and Recreation. Since then, he starred in blockbuster giants like the Jurassic Park trilogy, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he's even the voice of Mario now. This guy is unstoppable. Well, hopefully that's not true. You see, Chris was almost a part of the infamous Me Too movement, but he somehow escaped our radar. In 2013, Chris was involved with an organization called the Hillsong Church. This mega church is known for being notoriously anti-LGBTQ+. The church's former leader, Brian Houston, actually went public with their stupid, idiotic, and just wrong beliefs, but we don't need to get into that. While it was only ever rumored that he was involved with the controversial group, it was confirmed by his ex-wife and fellow actor Anna Faris he certainly wasn't against their beliefs. She claimed that Chris didn't deny specifically being involved with the church until 2022 because he didn't want to throw a church under the bus. Hey man, they might have done some pretty shady stuff, so why don't you just toss them under that bus as hard as you can? Number 8, Ariana Grande. She's got one less problem without you, and honestly we'd probably be fine without her too. Ariana rose to fame on the hit Nick series Victorious before spinning off and becoming a pop singing sensation. While she may be a good girl and good impressionist on screen, just ask Jimmy Fallon, behind the scenes she's reportedly cold, quiet, and much like Taylor Swift, she just hates on her exes through song. When she broke up with Saturday Night Live alumni Pete Davidson, she released a song called Pete Davidson, blatantly singing about and trashing her ex-fiance. The song made her a lot of money, which Pete received nothing of. So hey man, if you're gonna trash someone, at least give them a little bit of the cheddar, you know? On top of this, her behavior in general has just been chaotic. She once left a meet and greet because she didn't like the way that the photos were turning out. Those people paid hundreds of dollars and she was just like, ha, thank you, next. In 2015, a video surfaced of Ariana visiting a California donut shop, and the owners were beyond excited to see her until she started licking donuts and putting them back on the shelves. According to the shop owners, those donuts were never paid for and they actually had to be thrown away. But come on, they really should have preserved some of those and sold them online because hey, people are weird. This incident alone got her nixed from performing at a White House event despite multiple public apologies. The darkest of stories though comes from a Hollywood insider that has not been confirmed to be 100% true, but it might be. The man in question was working with Ariana at a signing event. She was all smiles until the event was over and they entered the elevator. According to them, her first words as the doors closed were, "I hope they all frickin' perish." Well, kinda makes you realize why Nick stars aren't as popular when they're adults. Number 7, Russell Crowe. The Gladiator star and newest addition to the world of mythology in the MCU, playing Zeus, Russell has had a steady career filled with blockbuster paychecks and fans galore. But according to several sources, the Pope's exorcist has quite the temper. In 2005, he made headlines for throwing a cell phone at a Mercer Hotel employee in New York City. Apparently he found out that it was broken and he threw it without looking, and it exploded on impact. That incident ended up being taken a bit far, but that was not the only example of his escapades. In 2016, he returned to the media circuit, this time facing charges of alleged violence towards rapper Azealia Banks. That dissolved into a he said she said situation that was settled outside of court. Crowe has also made a mess on set in his early days. A producer on the film Gladiator claims that Crowe became furious and violent when he discovered just how much the producer's assistant was being paid. The situation forced the producer Bronco Lustig to quit the production. While many fans loved Crow in Gladiator, the people on set, that's a different story entirely. His career is slowly on the decline, so who knows, maybe he'll throw a phone at someone that he shouldn't and finally get cancelled for good. Number 6. Rihanna. According to some of her fans, Rihanna's a rude lady. Fans shared their story of a co-worker who experienced firsthand just how cold Rihanna can be. They told insiders that they won free tickets and backstage passes from a radio concert. When it came time for the co-worker and her kids to meet Rihanna, she was sitting at her makeup booth and refused to face them. When the young fans asked if they could get her autograph, she instructed a nearby backup dancer to just forge a signature before shooing them away. Oh, you want my signature? Okay, bye. Go, get someone else to do it, I'm too busy. In 2016, she further added fuel to the fire when she shared a photo of a young fan wearing a dress inspired by Rihanna's Wile E. Coyote themed costume that she had worn at an awards show a few years prior. She wrote, "Dark thought rises" with the hashtag #PromBat. She shared that post with millions of people, alienating countless fans and ruining one fan's prom memories for the rest of their lives. By the way, I looked it up. If someone calls you a thought, kick them as hard as you can in the worst place that you can find. Fans may have turned on her, but she has yet to be officially cancelled, so I don't know, she really needs to be, so let's get on that. Number 5. Tom Cruise. While Tom may be an action movie star and was once a young Hollywood heartthrob, he's got a massive temper since day one. According to both former assistants as well as several co-stars from Tom's past, Cruise is a regular toddler and is known to throw tantrums, being set off by the smallest thing. His former manager, Eileen Berlin, presented Tom with a gift on his 19th birthday. She gave him an album of teen magazine articles written about him, and apparently that set him off. He told his manager that he considered himself an adult, not a teen idol, and threw the book right in her face. Another example of Tom's aggression was on display during the filming of his recent Top Gun sequel, Maverick. During the time, Tom and the rest of the film crew were tasked to shoot on an actual aircraft carrier, still in use by the US military. One of the crew posted on Twitter calling out the audacity of Tom's behavior. They tweeted, "Tom Cruise was really on our ship telling people not to talk or even look at him." After a few choice words, the crewmate made it very clear that Tom was not welcome aboard their vessel. These are just 2 examples though. Tom has blown up on film crews several times in the past, to the point where his Mission Impossible 2 co-star was constantly scared of Tom on set and what he may freak out about next. This dude's still making movies though, so hey Hollywood, kick him out and cancel him please, it's time. Number 4. Jared Leto. Jared Leto is an interesting fella. He started his own religious group, he brings a new meaning to the word method acting, and let's just face it, this guy sucks. Over the past few years, reports from Jared's fellow actors are anything but positive. During his time as the Joker, he left his fellow castmates used adult devices, pig heads, and live snakes in their trailers as so-called gifts. He was trying to stay method as the Joker, but anyone on the receiving end of that gift, well, probably wished that he would just chill out. On top of that, he's been known to stay in character, meaning that if he's playing someone angry or silent, well, that's how he's gonna be the entire time. This guy hasn't really been questioned for his actions at any point in recent history, only ever being called a weirdo and just kind of leaving it at that. With his career still well on the rise, here's hoping that Jared will eventually be called out for good and added to Hollywood's do not hire list. Number 3. Jon Hamm. The Madman star doesn't just look like your typical college jock. Turns out he actually was one in the early 90s. Jon took part in a hazing incident at the University of Texas in 1991 that led to Jon receiving criminal charges. The lawsuit was filed by a member of the Fraternal Society organization who claims to have been severely injured, dragged by a hammer, and had his pants set on fire. The person also claims that Jon was involved until, quote, the very end. Criminal records show that Jon was charged for this incident at the time, receiving probation and an official charge of hazing. He participated in all the classic hazing activities, some good, but mostly just downright degrading. While this took place way back when, Jon's roles, combined with his supposed cold shoulder default towards his fellow co-stars, has landed him on the must-cancel list. Number 2. Morgan Freeman. The voice of God himself, Morgan Freeman has been a soothing soul for many, many years. To this day, families can hear Morgan narrate the world around them in an immersive 360 IMAX screen at the Science Center in Toronto. He may be a comfort to some, but according to a few women, Morgan is their nightmare. Morgan has been accused of inappropriate behavior on multiple occasions between 1991 and 2015. According to one production assistant from the film Going in Style, which is a bank heist movie starring Freeman, Michael Caine, and Alan Arkin, Morgan subjected her to unwanted touching and comments about her figure and clothing on a near daily basis. Lend me your ear. This move is rarely received well. Get yourself a new move, or better yet, don't have a move. Just walk up and say hi and show her your Beanie Baby collection. Be normal. According to her, in one instance, Freeman attempted to lift her skirt and asked to see her underclothes. She was not the only one to speak out, however. A senior member of production staff on the movie Now You See Me 2 told CNN that Freeman harassed her and her female assistant on numerous occasions, making similar comments on figure and clothes. I could go on and on with more and more examples, but just to save some time and boil it down for you, Morgan Freeman is creepy, and I'm sorry to say, but this guy needs to retire for good as soon as possible. And at number 1, at number 1, it's Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle dominated the comedy scene in the 1990s and early 2000s. His stand-up was considered to be the most gut-busting and entertaining around, and his role in films like The Nutty Professor, Robin Hood Men in Tights, and the cult classic Half-Baked, he took a bit of a break from starring in films to focus on his family and his true passion, stand-up comedy. Despite being on stage for over 12 years though, Dave never really learned to follow suit with the times. There were certain topics that just became rude to joke about, and many jokes considered to be funny in the 80s and 90s have not aged well. Unfortunately, that seems to be all the material that Dave has. In one of his most recent Netflix specials, he made jokes aimed at the LGBTQ+ community. Jokes that are not worth quoting or repeating or googling, just none of it. They were rough enough to have Dave's fans turn on him immediately. While he was canceled by his fans, Netflix actually defended the comedian, claiming he had artistic freedom even after a group of Netflix employees and transgender advocates staged a virtual walkout. The co-CEO Ted Sarandos, who released the statement, later admitted that he handled the situation poorly. "Oh, did you, Ted? Did you accidentally defend a man who was making fun of gay people? Oh gosh darn it, oopsie doopsies." The fact that this man is still allowed to make money off of his specials, or even perform in general, as the number 1 spot of we should cancel him. Number 10, Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan is known for a lot of things in this world, okay? Her public meltdown, her ability to get estranged parents back together, and of course, her penchant for the partying lifestyle. As you can imagine, it's not easy being someone that works at one of these events, especially considering that they work for a woman that would regularly wake up late in the day and hung over a railing. Only she wasn't on a railing. Unfortunately, many people know that dealing with someone who wakes up late in the day after a long night of no-no juice-induced good times is a difficult person to deal with. Recently, some of Lohan's staff members have confided that she often wakes up at noon at the earliest. Naturally, she's always in a terrible mood and is extremely short with her staff. They claim that Lindsay would regularly take her frustrations out on her staff members simply because they were there and they were easy targets. They said that it should be a law if you deal with someone like Lindsay that an automatic bonus should be thrust into your bank account. Imagine if the lead of Herbie Fully Loaded started yelling at you at 12 in the afternoon. Beep beep, I quit. Number 9, Rihanna. Is it really a shock to learn that Rihanna does not talk to the hired help? Ignoring somebody is one of the meanest things that you can do to a person, making them feel like they do not exist or are not on the same level as you, and they do not deserve to be acknowledged. Most celebrities know not to do this, but others seem to only have a negative setting in their soul. Over the years, it's been said that pop singing sensation Rihanna doesn't even look or speak to her staff. An anonymous source revealed that Rihanna literally refers to the staff as hired help. She also falls asleep when she is getting her makeup done, which must be so great for everybody in the room. Rihanna just snoring in a chair and someone running around being like, "It's okay, she's just warming her voice up, guys, it's fine." Rihanna is also known for being pretty rude to her fans as well. One lady won backstage passes for herself and her family, and when they went back to do the meet and greet portion of their tickets, Rihanna didn't even face them and actually asked one of her assistants to come and sign something for them, sitting in her makeup chair like a Disney villain shooing people away. Number 8, George Clooney. George Clooney is the epitome of class, okay? Just watch his Nespresso commercial with Danny DeVito. These two were meant to be together. He is known to be very charming, especially when meeting fans or appearing at red carpet events. But it turns out that George Clooney is not exactly the the easiest man to work for. Apparently George is a little bit stingy and is extremely paranoid that people will take advantage of him, meaning that he is very untrusting of his staff. According to disgraced former employees who left in shame, Clooney's staff are not allowed to go anywhere near the no-no juice chamber, or cabinet as most people call it. George is reportedly nervous that someone will try to steal a sip of some of his more expensive options. The staff alleged that George would mark his bottles after each use so that he could actually see where the liquid was the last time that he had himself a glass. After each and every use, this man was just whipping out a marker and just notching away and just remarking and remarking. Hey, paranoia is one thing, but that is next level, okay? Just get a little bottle lock or something more complicated. I feel like there are some easy ways to get around that if you really dedicated your time to it. I'm not gonna do that, but someone might. Number 7, Beyoncé. Beyoncé has 3 simple rules if you work for her on tour. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And in other words, don't look at Beyoncé, don't talk to Beyoncé, don't even listen to Beyoncé. Maybe not that last one, but you get my point. Beyoncé is a massive star now, but even 10 years back, she was considered to be a major diva that felt that she was above everybody else. While she was on tour in 2013, all local staff were advised not to look or speak or approach Beyoncé. They were explicitly told that if she was walking down a hall towards them, to find an unlocked room and get in there as soon as possible, out of sight, out of mind. On top of that, everything backstage had to be draped in linen, which then had to be smoothed out after she would walk on it. Now, if that's how rude she was in 2013, imagine what she must be like now. She probably has someone fanning her in a chair between sets, while another person feeds her grapes and does her taxes. Luxury. That is luxury. Number 6, Zooey Deschanel. New girl Zooey Deschanel is known in Hollywood as a lovable, dorky little lady. She's so pure and innocent, and she dated Jim Carrey and Yes Man for some reason. Such a good movie, I'm not gonna bash on it. But it's not just Hollywood that knows Zooey as a lovable dork, her fans do too. There is no way that she would have a mean bone in her body, right? Well, it turns out that Deschanel is actually very rude and reportedly very demanding. While working on the set of the sitcom New Girl, several former staff members claimed that Zooey was constantly making up her own rules on the set and on the show. Being the main character allowed her to voice her ideas, and more often than not, the showrunners would just make it work. One of those rules that she made up was that at the end of each episode, that it had to be her and another character. She's gotta be the last face you see before watching Big Bang Theory again. It's a great show, and if you hate it, you're just trying to be cool. Overall, she is not even close to the worst person on this list, but we gotta include her because she did make a PA quit out of frustration. But they're not considered people, so who cares? I was a PA, I'm allowed to make that joke. Number 5, Kate Gosselin. Kate, who you may know from her reality show Kate Plus 8, is reportedly very mean to the people she employs. In fact, they would go so far as to say that she is a terrible boss. Oh, I'm sorry for my language. A former nanny who worked for Gosselin revealed that Kate made her babysitter's life a living nightmare. Gosselin got famous for being a mother of 8. My mom comes from a family of 9, but you don't see a TV show for the Newfoundlanders. Now that would be good TV. Despite Kate coming from such a large family and having to take care of so many kids at once, she writes guidelines for the people that work for her. According to several of her former employees, most of Gosselin's nannies quit almost immediately after being hired. Some of the demands that Kate had included in the rule books were things like washing her expensive cutlery by hand and never placing them on the kitchen table. You had to just... The rule book also said that the staff would be meant to walk lightly, something that was to be taught to the kids as well. Now, I couldn't figure out what the term walk lightly means, but I'm imagining it means teaching the kids to walk like cat burglars from like a 60s cartoon, but that feels wrong for some reason. Number 4, Victoria Beckham. Victoria is talented in many ways, mainly known for being Posh Spice from the Spice Girls. Despite her larger-than-life persona on stage, offstage she is much more serious and straightforward. Her work ethic is very simple: work and work hard. This method is taught to each and every one of her staff members. A former nanny revealed that Victoria was actually quite rude when it came to being a boss, going on to say that she expected all of her nannies to respond to the name Joe, even if their name wasn't Joe. The logic that some are suggesting is that maybe the Beckhams just didn't want their kids to be confused by the multiple nannies and names. They just needed to stick to one to refer to their staff, right? But at the same time, forcing your nannies to respond to a name that's not remotely similar to their own is very rude and annoying. Number 3, Naomi Campbell. Naomi is no stranger to a fiery tantrum or two. According to many people close to her, she has a short temper and some serious anger issues, so as you can imagine, being on her staff is nothing to celebrate about. Her history of mistreating staff is long and legendary. There were so many choices I could have put in this list. In 2000, Campbell was sued by her assistant Georgina Galanis. Apparently, Campbell whacked Georgina with a telephone in a hotel room and then told her she was going to throw her out of a moving car. She pleaded guilty to the charges, admitting that she lashed out in a fit of rage. In 2004, she supposedly headbutted an assistant, bit her lip, and yanked her to the floor, screaming, "F you, you worthless snitch!" Except she didn't say snitch. This woman cannot keep her hands to herself. She transforms into a UFC fighter every time she gets upset. In 2006, Campbell allegedly went after her housekeeper with a cell phone and just flung it right at her. In the past couple of years, more and more stories of former employees have been released, with the general consensus being that this lady is a menace and needs to take a chill pill. Number 2. Madonna. Madonna's voice is known around the world, but so is the fact that she can be a little bit mean from time to time. Not only have there been eyewitness accounts of her being rude to fans, but she's also a bit stingy when it comes to her staff. A few years back, an anonymous source revealed that when one of Madonna's dancers broke her arm during practice, that instead of being concerned and helping, Madonna had a full-blown meltdown, berating the dancer for being so bad at their job. There were also allegations that she said there shall be no fat country singers in her presence. Only she didn't say re-singers. Another source backed these stories up and added that Madonna does not pay very well, but she knows that she can pay people less to work for her for grueling hours because, hey, she's Madonna. There are probably some people out there who would work for a turkey sandwich just to be someone's assistant. White bread with lettuce, please. The source agreed that if there is one common theme with Madonna and her staff, it is that her ego overshadows them and they are supposed to feel lucky to be in her presence. Neither of the sources specified when they quit, but considering the stories, it sounded like they were with Madonna for quite some time. And at number 1, Courtney Love. Singer, actor, and wage thief Courtney Love has a bad habit of not paying her employees. According to some former assistants, she promises big things and fails to deliver on them constantly. In 2010, Love hired Jessica Labrie as her assistant. Courtney allegedly promised her lots of cool things, including bonuses, promotions, a scholarship to Yale, a job on the set of Nirvana's biopic, heck, even a job at Courtney's very own management company. Well, sign me up, man. That's a no-brainer. Only, if something sounds too good to be true, it almost always is. Of course, Jessica agreed to work for Courtney, but Love failed to deliver on any of her promises. There was no job on the Nirvana set, there was no scholarship to Yale, sometimes there wasn't even a paycheck. Labrie eventually sued Courtney for lost wages. Sure, she was mad that she didn't get any of the cool things that she was promised, but her main issue was the $2,000 that she was not paid. During the court proceedings, Jessica revealed that while working for Courtney, she was asked to hire a computer hacker to fake legal correspondence. What shady things did she want to cover up? Well, I guess we'll find out in another video. Number 10. Lizzo. It was revealed a little while back that a lawsuit has been filed against the famous pop singer Lizzo, accusing her of creating a toxic work environment and mistreating her background dancers. The accusations range from fat-shaming her crew to forcing them to eat strange fruit from strange places. One of the dancers, Crystal Davies, who is part of the lawsuit, was fired for secretly recording a meeting between herself and Lizzo. The meeting was about the dancer's performance on stage recently and her apparent dislike of the weight that she'd been gaining, claiming that she wasn't committing to her role. According to the plaintiffs, Lizzo made them work ridiculous hours, including up to 12-hour rehearsal days. One of the dancers recounted an experience of having to use the washroom and was forced to do it in her pants while rehearsing so she didn't lose any time. Like, hey Lizzo, if someone asks to use the bathroom, let them go. It took longer for them to get the poor woman a change of clothes than it would have to let her take a fight. When the news broke, the world collectively turned on Lizzo and believed every single word that these women are saying, and so far it seems like that's valid. While Lizzo continues to deny the allegations, her career just gets worse and worse. Several of her live stage shows have been canceled, her music's been pulled from radio stations, and there's an investigation taking place, which is never a good thing. Number 9. Christian Bale. Rumors that the former Batman actor is mean to his co-stars and crew have run rampant for years, ever since his infamous voice recording captured on the set of Terminator Judgment Day. For those who don't know, he shouted at a guy for being in his line of sight during a take. Real professional. However, a former publicist of Christian's named Harrison Chung shared a ton of behind-the-scenes stories, including the fact that Christian was in fact a really mean person, to the point where he literally made little kids cry when they would approach him as fans. Instead of appreciating his reach and enjoying his time with the fans, he reportedly responded to them with anger and lectures about personal space. Chung claimed that working for Christian was a nightmare, so much so that he had to take years of therapy. There have been a few stories regarding Christian and his anger over the years, but making kids cry and forcing the person making him look good to take therapy just means that there's something wrong with this guy. Number 8. Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga is known for a lot of things. A Star is Born, her music career, but for an ex-assistant named Jennifer O'Neill, Lady Gaga is just simply known as evil. O'Neill filed a lawsuit against her former boss in 2013 for $400 grand, the money that she claimed she was owed for her time working as Gaga's assistant. Clapping back against the claims, Gaga got heated. Say that 10 times fast. She counterclaimed that she was forced to do most of the assistant's work herself, complaining that she had to carry her own bags to her room all by herself like a normal person. O'Neill worked with Gaga for 13 months on a $75,000 salary and accompanied her on her Monster Ball World Tour. In trying to justify her actions as a boss, she admitted to partying late at night, sleeping in all day, and literally screaming in the streets. During the court hearing for the case, she also launched into an F-word fueled tirade, swearing over and over again at Jennifer. Gaga was basically blasting this woman with allegations and just kind of denying everything that she was saying. Gaga claimed that Jennifer was always made to be an equal on tour, where Jennifer claims to have been overwhelmed with her workload. Instead of paying O'Neill the damages, Gaga claimed that she was going to spread the wealth to the people that currently worked for her, aka the ones who really deserve it. Eventually they were able to settle the situation outside of court, but the exact dollar exchange is unknown. Number 7. Bill Murray. Bill has always been outed as a menace on set. He yelled at Lucy Liu on the set of Charlie's Angels, but that's not even close to when it started. He got fired from that set, but that's part of another video. Another altercation came off camera on a completely different film. In 1991, Bill was filming What About Bob, a comedy flick of course, but the set was anything but. He reportedly got into an argument with a producer on the film named Laura Ziskin that resulted in him literally throwing her in a lake. Now at the time she called the incident playful, but the rest of the production time was also filled with similar outbursts. Bill would regularly snap on set especially, and directed a lot of his attention at Laura. She recounted a time when Bill said that he was going to throw her across the parking lot before breaking her sunglasses and throwing them across the parking lot. But it wasn't just Laura that was scolded on set. One day when Bill asked her for a day off and she said no, he flipped in front of the entire crew. He ripped off her glasses and threw them on the ground. Bill's co-star Richard Dreyfuss confronted him about his behavior, and Bill responded by launching an ashtray at him like he was Captain America or something. Everyone on set walked off and flew home to Los Angeles. The film only resumed production when Disney agreed to hire a bodyguard to physically keep these two separate in between takes. Number 6. Kylie Jenner. Kylie Jenner is the youngest of the Kardashian clan and is extremely successful for her age. In 2019, she made the cover of Forbes magazine as the youngest self-made billionaire ever, following the successful partnership between her cosmetic brand and Ulta, a beauty salon company, which would allow the brand previously only available online and in random pop-ups to actually be on shelves in Ulta's 1,000 stores, which is unfortunate considering where those products actually come from. A lot of employees at the factories that mixed and packaged her makeup and beauty products reported that they were never given proper safety equipment, and you kind of need that to do that job. They were only given like hair nets, lab coats, safety goggles, which meant that their hands and faces were completely exposed. Workers would regularly report migraines, mild chemical burns on their hands, and if that isn't bad enough, they were also forced to act as human test subjects for Kylie's new products. Needless to say, a lot of people quit their jobs very quickly. Kylie was very proud of her company not testing products on animals, but can we all agree that using people is just way worse? Number 5. Mariah Carey. Mariah may get stuck in your head between the months of November and January, but in 2019, all Maria Burgess wanted for Christmas was her wages. Maria sued Mariah, alleging that she worked for Mariah between 2017 and 2018, but did not receive any pay and had to deal with tremendous stress. In the lawsuit, she alleged that Carey would not allow her to take breaks, and she did not specify the hours she had to work, but the lawsuit implied that she basically worked around the clock 24/7. She claims that she was finally forced to leave Mariah after she complained about her working environment, to which Mariah responded with, "I don't care." The suit was apparently settled outside of court, and knowing Mariah Carey, she probably just forked over the cash, no questions asked. She's Mariah Carey. Number 4. Miley Cyrus. Ever since her Disney days, Miley Cyrus has slowly been descending into this weird space between a sweet person and a terrible person. Mostly terrible. While she is known to be a little bit cold towards her fans, her staff has had it even worse. An anonymous source revealed to Radar Online that Miley had 2 dogs who were not house trained. Apparently, Miley just never bothered to train them herself, so every time they would relieve themselves inside, she would just yell at her staff for not picking it up immediately. Not only had she made her own employees cry and quit, apparently this was something that she did to a ton of employees around the world, reportedly causing mayhem in a New York City hotel after inviting several of her friends over for a good time. According to the hotel staff, she acted like a toddler when they asked her to chill out, literally telling them that they should be grateful that she was even there. Number 3. Kourtney Kardashian. While Kim Kardashian may not be the best boss in the world, Kourtney Kardashian is known as the absolute worst boss of all time. According to former nannies, Kourtney was by far the absolute worst Kardashian to work for. Not only is she a neat freak, needing every single thing to be exactly where it should be, but she is also known for being surprisingly cheap, even once calling a grocery store while she was shopping to compare the price of a chicken breast. If anyone needs that extra 99 cents, it's her. But this isn't the worst thing that she's done. At one time, Kourtney's daughter had bitten a nanny so hard that she had to quit, but instead of letting it go and taking responsibility for not teaching her daughter how to act properly, she berated the nanny, telling her that she should have said something to her daughter in the moment. Because yes, blame the woman that you're paying to raise your kids instead of the kid itself. That makes so much sense. Number 2. Kim Kardashian. How can I do this list without talking about Kim, right? Kim Kardashian is arguably the most famous of her Kardashian sisters, and it would seem she's also the busiest. For example, she has 4 kids, skincare line, her Skims brand, she's attending law school, co-founded an equity team, and she recently even hopped on the podcast train, in addition to filming her new reality TV show on Hulu. Yeah, you may be asking yourself, how does one woman do all that by herself? Well, because she pays people to do stuff for her, of course. She has multiple assistants and nannies to help her stay above the overwhelming workload, but has been known to treat them as lesser than her. For example, on several occasions, Kim and her daughter North would go to lunch accompanied by the nanny, but Kim made her not only sit at a separate table away from them at the restaurant, but she's also known to make the nannies walk like 10 feet away from her at all times, unless she has multiple people with her at once, and then she likes to make them like a walking V formation because it looks cool. If they walk near her or attempt to like walk side by side, she blows up on them behind closed doors. Needless to say, she's had many nannies over the years and's probably made them all cry at least once in a closet. Number 1. Ellen. Ellen DeGeneres had one of the most successful daytime talk shows right up until 2020. Her show became overwhelmed with accusations of a toxic work environment from former employees. They were claiming that Ellen's happy exterior was nothing more than this facade she was putting in place to keep her audience happy. Fans began questioning awkward moments on her show, and eventually the cracks in her appearance grew bigger and bigger. And there was just way too much information being leaked for any of this to be fake, so Ellen was eventually forced to cancel her show and subsequently herself. She denied every single accusation until the day she was done, but here we are, Ellen free in 2023.
At number 10, James Franco. It's no longer a surprise to anyone that James is a bad dude, but his misdeeds date back to 2005. James and Tyrese Gibson starred opposite each other in a 2005 dramatic piece called Annapolis. The story follows Franco's character wanting to attend the titular Naval Academy and entering into a boxing tournament against some of the Navy's best and brightest. His main opponent is Tyrese Gibson. Throughout the majority of filming, James and Tyrese would regularly practice the choreography for the final fight of the film. Now,
Now, method acting is one thing when you just pretend to be someone else all the time, but it's different when you're literally punching your co-star for real. Instead of the normal film choreography allowing actors to fake hit each other, Franco was throwing real punches without warning. Gibson tried to be civil at first and asked him to lighten up, but Franco ignored him and continued to box his heart out. When asked about the incident in interviews, Franco defended himself by saying he was aware he made the set difficult at times and claimed to be so wrapped up in his role that he probably wasn't as friendly as he could be. Gibson, however, holds a massive grudge towards Franco, claiming he'd never step foot in the same room as him ever again. Good news for Tyrese, James got cancelled and Fast 11 comes out soon. At number 9, Bill Murray. Sony's first foray into the world of Charlie's Angels was a massive success when it was released, starring Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and Lucy Liu as the Angels. The movie was filled with action, a bit of comedy, and one of the strangest performances ever delivered by Crispin Glover. Oh my god, that guy needs help. One interesting addition to the cast was the inclusion of Ghostbusters alumni Bill Murray as the man behind the mic Bosley. Apparently, the set was anything but a comedy after Bill found out a scene was rewritten without his knowledge. In an interview with the news outlet Deadline, Lucy Liu spoke about her time on set and the situation surrounding Bill's outbursts. Apparently, he was away for a family event when a scene needed to be reshot for the film. Instead of using a stand-in, it was decided that the scene could be filmed without Murray's character being involved, so the scene went on without him. When he returned to find the change was made while he was gone, he was furious. He reportedly shouted at half the crew, including Lucy herself. At first, she wasn't sure why he was aiming his comments at her. She didn't write the scene, she wasn't the director. She asked if Bill was talking to her, which sent him into a full-blown meltdown. She decided to speak out on Bill's behavior on set, and he was ultimately written out of the sequel. Lucy is proud for speaking her mind despite being a relatively unknown actress at the time, and is glad that Bill's career seems to have suffered for it, because Lucy was just the first of many celebs to comment on his behavior, but let's save that for another time. At number 8, Jennifer Aniston. In 2010, Elle asked actor Jay Moore to describe his most awkward interaction with a female celebrity. Moore responded with a blind item that involved a certain leading lady who was upset to learn that he would be playing her love interest. This mystery diva reportedly yelled, "You've got to be kidding me," right to his face. He then revealed that the behavior that followed led to Moore regularly, quote, "go to my mom's house and cry." Asked if the actress happened to be Aniston, who played his love interest in the 1997 film Picture Perfect, Moore said he will never ever answer that. Well, on his More Stories podcast, he did answer that. Moore claimed Aniston pointed right at him on the first day of rehearsal and screamed, "6 guys they screen test. 6. The one effing guy I hate, that's the guy they hire." This apparently went on the entire day as Aniston kept bad-mouthing him to their co-star. Regardless of what really happened on that Picture Perfect soundstage, Moore has apparently never forgiven Aniston. In 2016, Sports Illustrated asked what was more satisfying, kissing Jen Aniston or firing Tom Cruise's character in Jerry Maguire. Moore answered, without question, firing Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is hotter. At number 7, Jennifer Lopez. The 2020 Super Bowl saw 2 pop icons taking the stage and making the night about them and not football. Shakira and Jennifer Lopez appeared together. They absolutely slayed, and their performance has gone down in history as the most memorable and shimmy-filled night in the NFL. Unfortunately, Jennifer did not want to share the stage. Following the show, as a part of her Netflix documentary Halftime, it was revealed that she was extremely annoyed at the NFL for forcing her to share the stage when she felt strong enough on her own, literally calling it the worst idea in the world. Her main concern was the fact that herself and Shakira were meant to occupy and share the same amount of stage time as a normal solo act rather than doubling it like she assumed would happen. Solo artists are normally given between 12 and 16 minutes of stage time, with most artists using that time to do a mashup of their most popular songs. In the documentary, a clip revealed that Jennifer yelled at her music director, complaining that she had 6 effing minutes, 30 seconds per song. Not enough. The worst idea is putting multiple people on the stage. To prove her wrong, one of the most recent performances on the Super Bowl stage saw 6 major artists share the 12-minute spot. Dr. Dre, Eminem, Snoop Dogg, 50 Cent, Mary J. Blige, and Kendrick Lamar were all able to make it work and work well, but Jen couldn't even fathom the 6 minutes she had to perform. At number 6, Jared Leto. Jared Leto has been a problematic figure in the world of Hollywood throughout a majority of his career. After first gaining notoriety for portraying the character of Lane Dixon alongside Dennis Quaid and Danny Glover, Leto quickly began building up his acting repertoire with roles in iconic films like Mr. Nobody, Girl Interrupted, and even taking a turn as the Clown Prince of Darkness, the Joker, in the 2016 film The Suicide Squad, which landed him a spot on this list. Jared has always taken method acting to the extreme, losing and gaining weight rapidly over and over again. It was this film in which he may have snapped. While playing the iconic Batman villain, Leto purposefully distanced himself from his fellow actors on set, and reports are that he sent his castmates used adult toys. At one point during filming Captain Boomerang, actor Jay Courtney found a live snake in his trailer following a long shooting day. The snake wasn't venomous, but I think we can all agree that's a big ol' nope. In recent years, he's claimed that any gifts sent to his castmates were sent with the intent of joy and excitement and were received as such. I don't know, exposing your fellow actors to your bodily fluids and actual snakes doesn't sound very exciting to me. At number 5, Wesley Snipes. Ryan Reynolds is known for many things. He's got his toes dipped into the world of adult beverages, wireless cell phone coverage, and he's even a soccer coach. One of his most iconic roles as an actor is, of course, Mr. Deadpool himself. However, in 2008, Ryan was a part of a different Marvel movie. As some may know, the original Marvel movie that started this whole live-action comics trend was the Blade trilogy, starring Wesley Snipes as the titular vampire hunter. By the time of the third film of the franchise rolled around, Wesley Snipes was just done with working on set. He hated the way the franchise was turning out, and all of his creative suggestions were quickly shut down. His main problem, though, was the fact that Blade Trinity was written as a straight-up comedy movie. The previous entries were dark action movies filled with gore and some pretty stellar fight sequences, so when Van Wilder was cast to be his co-star, he gave up. He famously refused to film several scenes unless he was allowed to keep his shades on, and apparently he was micro-napping during scenes because he just didn't care anymore. Ryan played a big part in his difficulty enjoying the shoot, making it his mission to make Wesley snap. He would constantly do bits, push things too far, just the general Ryan Reynolds chaos that we're used to at this point. At the end of the day, Blade Trinity ended up burying the franchise and was one of the most chaotic and toxic film sets of 2004. At number 4, Kiefer Sutherland. The man known for his roles in movies like Lost Boys and Stand By Me has built a nice little place for himself in Hollywood. For a long time, he was starring in the crime drama 24. Many celebrities have made small cameos and recurring roles on the show, but in 2010, Scooby-Doo actor Freddie Prinze Jr. was cast as Agent Cole Ortiz. Despite the massive success of the show, the job left him scarred, admitting that he hated every moment of it. According to Freddie, Kiefer is the most unprofessional dude in the world. Continuing to say that he wasn't talking trash, this was something he would happily say to Kiefer's face, and apparently a ton of his co-stars agree that he makes filming a living nightmare. Following the end of his character's time on the show, he did slow down in the acting world, now limiting himself to voiceover and cameo roles. The odd thing was that while there were some backing up Freddie's story, there were a higher number of defenders for Sutherland, claiming the exact opposite experience. Some say he's the most professional man in the world, so if anyone watching this knows Kiefer, weigh in. Are you Team Kiefer good or Kiefer bad? At number 3, Alyssa Milano. Alright, so let's talk about the show Charmed for a moment. A solid series that was on the air for almost 10 years. The series followed 3 sisters who discovered they were descendants of a line of good female witches and are destined to fight against the forces of evil. Yeah, it was a fun show, however, just because you play sisters on set doesn't mean you're as close in real life. Rose McGowan and Alyssa Milano had a very public altercation that resulted in a little incident on set being shared with the world. Rose claimed that Alyssa threw a fit in front of the crew yelling, "They don't pay me enough to do this stuff," only she didn't say stuff. She called Alyssa's behavior appalling, claiming she cried every time the show got renewed for another season because it meant more time on a toxic set. Alyssa never shared her own comments on the situation, confirming what she was being accused of. At number 2, Richard Gere. Richard Gere is one of those actors that doesn't really act. Sometimes people just get hired for films because they have the face for it or the style. For Richard Gere, he did not have enough class and moxie to keep a handle on his role in the film The Lords of Flatbush. He was cast to star alongside Rocky himself, Sylvester Stallone, and according to Sly, these two did not get along. Their beef was strong and long-lasting throughout production until it finally came to a head when one day Richard was a little too into a scene and grabbed Sylvester aggressively by the collar. When Stallone told him to lay off, he laid in instead. The scene was being filmed on Coney Island, and when the actors took a break, they tried to break each other. Stallone was eating a hot dog alone in a car. Sounds peaceful. But suddenly, Richard stormed in to join him with half a chicken dripping in mustard. Despite Sly's warning about the mustard, it dripped all over his pants. In true Rocky fashion, he elbowed Richard in the head and threw him out of the car. The altercation resulted in Richard being fired from the project. Oh no, we have to decide between Richard Gere and Sylvester Stallone. I wonder how quick that decision was. And at number 1, Dustin Hoffman. Dustin is a very easy man to spot. Not only is he he is a solid actor, but he has a very specific face. Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium, anyone? Remember that movie? I did not remember that existed until I started writing this script. I will be watching that tonight. Despite his ability to play lovable and cheerful characters, he actually started out as somewhat of a villain. On the second day of filming his more famous part in Kramer vs. Kramer, Dustin decided to improvise a scene where he strikes his co-star Meryl Streep across the face. Let me rephrase that. Dustin Hoffman thought it would be a great idea to strike Meryl Streep. Mamma mia, that's not okay. Not only was Meryl shocked by the move, but she recalled that Dustin was also trying to use a tactic on her called emotional recall, taunting her about her late partner John Cazale and his illness.